Imhotep, those crazy cultists are at it again. Be afraid, be very afraid. Obviously, I'm just kidding. So today we're going to be talking about cults, more specifically the accusation that Asetianists are just crazy cultists in some dark circle of hacking and cult behavior. So, what a fun subject, right? I've prepared this list, or I've taken inspiration from this website that I'll link down below just in case you're curious, from alexanderstein.com. So I'm going to go over the first four first. The group or person has the total or only answer. Only they can solve your problems. Attempts to isolate you from friends and family. Promises of perfection if you adhere to their program. Group creates conditions of stress, threat, and fear. So anyone who's been around for any substantial period of time knows, it's very obvious to them why these accusations are very silly, but then time and time again you keep seeing people falling for this, people going right along with the weird claims. So let's kind of explore that a little bit. The group or person has the only answer, only they can solve your problems. I feel like a lot of people don't know about a concept within Asetianism, and that is the spiritual kaleidoscope. So what's advocated within this path is the fearless pursuit of any kind of knowledge that you can get your hands on. Not for the sake of ego, wanting to know everything and throw it in people's faces, but for the sake of broadening your own horizons. That continuous, eternal contraction and expansion, kind of like a flow, like eternal growth, eternal evolution, always embracing that initiatory path of being a beginner, because I do think that's very powerful. So anyways, yes, within this path there are a lot of people who explore anything and everything that they can. Any occult path that they get curious about, or even many branches of science, all under the intent of growth. So, attempts to isolate you from friends and family. Alright. This one, I'm only including this one because there have been actual documented cases within the community of people who tried to claim that, this group tried to isolate me from my friends or family and tried to dictate to me who I should interact with and tried to control me. Now, there is a remark on the Order's official website, and that explains that, there's no member of the Order making comments or remarks or debating Asetianism and its teachings anywhere outside of the Order's official structure. Basically, that means, the Order members are very, very silent and shadowy. You're not going to gain access in any way by hearing them debate stuff or interacting with it. Really, it doesn't happen because that goes against their code. So aside from the author and those very few cases that we know for certain are actually tied to the Order, those validated cases, it just doesn't exist. It's not out there. So just debunking that, you're not really going to find Order members trying to isolate you from your friends and family. To be more specific, the vast majority of the population doesn't even know what happens within the Order structure because they just simply do not have any form of contact or access to that. So the third one, promises of perfection if you adhere to the program. There really isn't any program within Asetianism. It's a culture. It's a culture and an ancient tradition. Group creates conditions of stress, threat, and fear. There's another one that I've seen before. People are scared and afraid because those crazy Asetians are going to come get them. That is very, very weird because obviously, like I just explained, the Order itself isn't coming after anyone and creating stress, threat, and fear because they're a secretive order and they don't interact with the public. But of course, a lot of people, particularly within the online vampire community, have this desperate need to feel important, so they fabricate these lies and stories by taking a single seed, maybe a failed interaction with an Asetianist or another occultist, and they felt their ego being trampled on, maybe, or confronted, so they made up a story. Well, an Asetian is trying to ruin me, or whatever silly stuff they come up with. So know that that's not true. Let's see. Not answering questions. Inappropriate personal boundaries. Trying to get you to commit to a program or contract. Encouragement to cut ties with friends or family unless you can recruit them. I mean, most of this is just going to be a reiteration at this point because, with the order being unreachable by most, you're not going to get, first of all, you're not going to get your questions answered because, and that's when we see a lot of people, suddenly flipping from, I'm so inspired by Asetianism and, this violet path to, I hate it, it's too elitist, I had this confrontation with this order member, and this horrible thing happened, and blah, 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 blah. It's obviously they're not going to answer questions. Trying to get you to commit to a program or contract. So one very prominent thing within the public Asetianist community that people, for the most part, just don't care what other people believe. They are on a path of their own. They're trying to uncover their own past. They're trying to understand themselves and pursue spiritual evolution and the attainment of wisdom. They're not really concerned with what other people believe or don't believe. So, let's see. Once you're in, heavy pressure to stay in. Those who do leave are shunned. No criticism allowed of group or leader. Let's see. Deception. Group upon joining isn't what you thought it was. Very, very weird. I mean, again, actual documented cases within the community that, they joined the Aset Ka and they decided to leave because it just wasn't for them. That's a good one. So, for those of you who don't know, membership of the order is very, very restricted. You only basically get in by direct invitation, and that's kind of something of legend because it's very rare. And, there are a lot of people online who present themselves as order members. They're not. And then what they perceived was an invitation to the order really wasn't. It was either outright fabricated or something they misunderstood. Maybe they spoke with a cultist who made something up, presented themselves as something they weren't, and they just believed on it. And I suspect, anyway, that that's why the order published that remark to begin with, was to help people for not falling into those traps. Those who do leave are shunned. Again, let's laugh at that for a moment. Okay, so let's move on to the rest of the list. The group doctrine is seen as the ultimate truth, and you cannot criticize the teachings or the leader. That's one of the most common claims that I've seen, mostly coming from the online vampire community who seems to feel strangely threatened by Asetianism. Very, very weird, but it's a very easy claim to make if you look only at the surface level of Asetianism and you don't pierce any deeper, particularly for those who identify as a vampire. They seem to take extra issue with this path because, ego claims are not really nurtured within the community. I'm talking the public community. and not the actual order itself. The actual order itself, they have published literature that debunks a lot of the nonsense that you see flying around on the OVC, but the public community itself, passionately opposes, the ego titles, like I'm an elder, I'm a high elder, I'm a grand elder, I'm a matriarch, I'm this super huge, powerful leader, I'm a psychic vampire only, I'm a sanguinarian vampire only. A lot of people have their own path and their own identifications, and a lot of Asetianists, I believe, encourage people to, just pursue what works for you, but a lot of the things that were debunked within the Asetian Bible really angered a lot of people, such as the fact that a real vampire can actually feed from both energy and blood, and categorizations are kind of just elements of fiction. So that kind of gave rise to a lot of angered remarks that, well, the Asetians and their followers believe the world is just black and white, and we don't exist to you. Your doctrine must be followed, otherwise I'm not real, and you can't criticize the leader. A lot of that stuff happened because most of the time when the author is criticized, it's something really stupid. It's, this guy plagiarized such and such author, or this guy, they come up with a lot of weird stuff. So it's not saying, most people in the community, I think, would not reject criticism of the path or of the leaders behind, the order and that kind of stuff. It's more along the lines of, if you're going to criticize, if you have something to say about it that's critical, it should be intelligent. It should come from a place of, I tried to understand this. I did my homework. I'm criticizing from an educated place. The people who are like, those Asetianists are so stupid because they're just a cult, and, such and such person was an order member, so I have their testimony that this is something so horrible and toxic. It's very silly, obviously. As I said before, the remark on their website's there for a reason. If you have access to this person, chances are that they're not an order member. So, let's see. There is something very interesting within the Book of Orion that I'm just going to briefly touch upon, and that is the Psychology of Wisdom section. Hatred can actually be a strange hidden form of admiration. It can be a sign of flattery and, like they're praising you. And that's a reaction that is seen so common on this path. It happens a lot when people feel very threatened and moved by the energy behind the path. They react with hatred, whether it's toward the author or toward anybody that they can actually reach. Most of the times that ends up being, a member or several members of the public community, which are Asetianists who are seeking to, learn and grow from this path, without actually being members, and without making inflated claims about it. It's a very interesting psychological reflection that you can see happening. So, he advocates not to fight hatred, but to use it as a form of accomplishment, like to be happy about the fact that you moved somebody so much that they made it suddenly their life's mission to oppose you and hate you. Very interesting components that you can study and learn a lot from in this path. So, basically, you can't please everybody, and you shouldn't try. There are a lot of accusations that will continue to come out, against this path and against the people following it that really are kind of awesome to keep seeing. It's kind of like, not in terms of ego, not in terms of, yeah, we're so great, but in terms of, wow, the energy of this path and the ancient wisdom that the order brings is so powerful that it is making people devote their own precious time toward attacking and tearing down the followers who are just following it because they want to better themselves. Fascinating stuff. I love psychology. I'm not going to be getting that much into the Violet Throne just yet, but there are a lot of psychological teachings in it that can really explain people's motivations and their behavior and debunk a lot of the causes of fume and nonsense. Definitely would recommend diving into psychology. Maybe if you don't want to order the Violet Throne or the Asetian Bible or the Book of Orion, and you're at that point where you're thinking, well, I'd like to know more before I feel like I have to buy literature. You can. I mean, obviously, there are many paths and many avenues that you can explore. It does not have to be Asetianism. You can simply take inspiration in that path as sort of a catalyst to move you forward into something else. And I think that's a very positive thing as well that you can do with your time. Definitely psychology, I think, should be on anybody's list, even if it's just on a lighter level, helping you understand why people do the things they do, what helps them tick, anything that you can use in your own path and apply that to understanding why the things happen the way they do against you, especially as an occultist constantly getting a lot of hate and attack. Obviously, that comes with a lot of responsibility. You can't simply misapply teachings, whether they're from Asetianism or any other occult path. You cannot simply take a little piece of that and slap it on your own life without having the wisdom to understand what they actually mean. For instance, you can't simply go, well, everybody's criticizing me, it must mean I'm powerful. Everybody is acting like they hate me, it must mean I'm great. Not quite. A lot of people try to use that to hide their own failings, but sometimes if a lot of people are rising up against you, it means you are doing something wrong. It means maybe I'm constantly attacking everybody else. Maybe I'm constantly starting drama and causing problems. Maybe that's why everybody is criticizing me. So I do think that's an element for people to keep in mind. Have the maturity and wisdom to not misapply quotes and teachings where they don't belong. Have the courage and integrity to constantly examine yourself and question, what am I doing right and what am I doing wrong? And that's, I believe, a very important initiatory element that a lot of Asetianists, constantly chase, or maybe chase is the bad word, but constantly embrace, that practice of questioning oneself, examining oneself with complete honesty. Very important if you're going to study any kind of occult path, anything. So that's all I have today. Thanks for watching. Remember, we're not crazy occultists, or are we?